Today, unfortunately, we have to talk about bullying. Let me first start with the reason why I wanted to bring up bullying. In the last part of 2017, there were a couple of videos. One in particular, it was about a boy and his mum was recording him. He was just talking about his experience about being bullied. And he was crying and he wanted to know why people bullied. And I'll put a little clip here.
Just out of curiosity, why do they bully? What's the point of it? Why do you find joy in taking innocent people and finding a way to be mean to them? It's not okay.
What do they say to you?
They make fun of my nose. They call me ugly. They say I have no friends.
What'd they do to you at lunch?
Pour milk on me and put ham down my clothes. Threw bread at me.
Is it just you?
Yep.
Or is it other kids too that feel that way?
Say it's other kids too.
How's that make you feel?
I don't like that they do it to me, and I for sure don't like that they do it to other people, because it's not okay. People that are different don't need to be criticized about it.
And then at the beginning of 2018, there was another video. This time it's not from a guy who was bullying, but it's a guy who went to Japan. He traveled to Japan and he went to a famous suicide forest. And in that forest, it's apparently a lot of people go there to commit suicide, which is a serious topic, and it kind of leads into what I'm talking about today. I wasn't going to talk about that guy, but then I saw a video from a young boy who was really, really upset by it. And then it kind of made me remember how I felt, in a little unrelated, but when I was younger as well.
I'm not pushing you to say anything. Why are you crying? Tell me why you're crying.
Okay, I'm crying because because when I first saw the vlog, I thought it was gonna be a fake joke and a skit. I'm crying because just the person who committed suicide died, and I don't even know the reason why. And I know there's lots of other people in the world who commit suicide because they're living in a trash hole, and their lives just go so wrong for them, and they just want to kill themselves, and just thinking about it just makes me want to cry, even though I'm a boy or something.
And this all leads into some of the reasons why people will choose to commit suicide. When I was growing up, I think I was one of the good kids. I didn't get into trouble. I didn't really do any bad things. I wasn't the person starting fights or arguments or anything like that. I think I was just one of the good kids. And I remember the first time I ever got into trouble. And that was in my primary school, before I moved house. It was in my first primary school. And I remember there were two new boys. And you know what it's like when you're growing up and there are some new people. Well, yeah, so they were the target of, a lot of bullying. And at that age, I hadn't recognized what bullying was. I didn't really have any idea about what bullying was because I hadn't experienced any of it so far. So it just wasn't a concept that I was aware of. But then I remember the first time I got in trouble was because I realized I was very good at copying their accent. And they were twins. I forget if they were from Birmingham or near Birmingham. I'm pretty sure it was Birmingham because in my head I seem to remember saying the word Birmingham in their accent. And that was terrible of me. And I really had no idea, at that time I had no idea that was a thing, that was something that they could be upset about. I had no idea. I was very good at copying their accent, and I don't know why. I just repeatedly did it. I just copied. Everything they said, I copied. It was like a parrot. I was like a parrot. And at this time, I was probably 7 years old. Probably 7 years old, I think. 7 years old. And I was just copying them. And I had no idea about what that could have done to them until the teacher told me. So the teacher pulled me aside, and I think my parents got called in as well because I was doing it so much. They'd made a complaint about it, and I just remember I was in trouble, big trouble, for mimicking their accent. And that was the first time I realized that this is something bad. But I got a taste of my own medicine because shortly after, my family moved house. We moved to a new area and a new school. And at that school, I was the new person. I was the different one. And oh my God, the first 2 or 3 years of being at that school were a living nightmare for me. That's what I can remember now. Everyone, everywhere was laughing at something about me. Whether it was the way that I looked, whether it was just the fact that I was new, whether it was the fact that I didn't yet have the school uniform because I had moved there and I hadn't yet bought the school uniform. I don't remember if it was during the school year or, I don't remember exactly when. But I remember there was a time when I didn't have the school uniform, and it was just like alien, alien, alien. He doesn't have a school uniform. He's a tramp. There were all kinds of different names. And the fact that my hair was different, I'll show you a class photo. Oh, it was terrible, terrible. One of the main things that people commented on was the color of my skin and my hair being very different. And I remember one of the names that I was called was Spongehead. Spongehead, because my hair felt like a sponge, apparently. Yes, my hair is soft right now. It is soft. It doesn't feel like a sponge, but if you have to compare it to something, okay, fine. Anyway, Spongehead, Brillo pad, all these different things. But Spongehead was the one that kind of stuck for like pretty much all of primary school. That stuck. At first, I didn't understand it because I'd never associated my hair with being like a sponge. I didn't understand it. And then later I started to, I was really hurt. I was really hurt by always being referred to by anything other than my name. It was always the kid that, or that kid, or the Spongehead, or worse names than that. It was terrible. And I remember sometimes I would go home and I'd be crying because I just didn't want people to always comment on things like this. And I was lucky because my parents were strong and my parents were supportive, and anytime that I told them that something happened, they were there to help me. They would come to the school or speak to the teacher, or they would give me some advice about what I can do. And I managed to get through primary school, and then secondary school was like starting fresh, and it was absolutely fine in secondary school. Primary school was like the living hell I had to get through. But I really can relate to people who don't have it so easy. Not everyone has a family like I do. Not everyone feels that they can speak up. Not everyone asks for help. And I feel like, when I saw that video of the guy kind of hanging from the tree, it made me think, we don't know what happened to him before that. We don't know why he's there. I'm thinking, what would it take for me to want to kill myself? It would take a lot. I mean, honest, touch wood, I don't ever intend to kill myself, so don't worry. I'm not a suicide, I'm not on a suicide watch list. I do not have suicidal intentions or thoughts. I do not want to kill myself at all. But I feel like I can relate to that feeling of, feeling like there's nowhere to go. No one wants to listen to anything you have to say. I tell people to stop calling me Spongehead, and then they think, it's just a stupid little name. It's just Spongehead. Your hair's like a sponge, it's like Spongehead, no problem, whatever. But they had no idea about the impact that was having on me. It was tearing me apart inside. I was angry, I was frustrated, I was sad, I was everything at one time. And I really, really can relate to these people who feel like they have nowhere to go. I feel like I'm pretty strong, so I feel like after all of that, I feel like it would take a lot more, even then, it would take a lot more to get to me, like really, really get to me. But it did get to me. I cried. I remember I was crying. I remember. It did get to me, but it didn't ever make me feel like, I wanted to kill myself. But I just feel like suicide, I've never really thought about suicide as much as I have in the last 24 hours after watching that video and after seeing that little boy's reaction. I've never really thought about it as much. So I guess this video is just about, can we all be nice to each other? Can we try? Yeah, sure. If people do something terribly wrong, call them out. Tell them that they're doing something terribly wrong. But if people have some kind of condition, or if there's something different about someone, or, I just think that there are some things we don't need to make people feel bad about. And that could be accent, the way that they speak. It could be the way that they look, the color of their skin, the kind of hair that they have, the shape of their nose, the shape of their eye, everything. Just, we don't need to make people feel bad for being different. Actually, being different is great. I think it's great. But I think it's one of those things, you know, when you get bullied, you get through it, and on the other side, you're just like Superman. You're super strong. Nothing can get to you after that. Nothing. But you just got to get through it. If you don't get through it, then you got to get help. You really got to get help. Got to speak to people. Got to find someone. I'll put some details down below in the description of where you can get help if any of this has affected you. But really, I just think that you need to communicate. Any kind of problem, just communicate. Just talk to someone. Tell people about what's going on inside. And don't let stuff get to you. You know, at the end of the day, we're humans. We've made this world around us with all this stress and all these things that you have to fit in here, or if you don't fit in here, you're different and you're an alien and you're a freak. We make these rules. We don't need to obey all of these rules. We don't need to conform to everything. We don't need to automatically hate someone because they're different or from a certain country or whatever. People are just different. Let's just get over it and stop spreading hate, stop bullying. And if you see someone in need, if someone's, you know, talking about they want to hurt themselves or commit suicide, help that person, help them. Don't mock them. And if you're one of these people who is currently going through something really terrible, get help. Speak to someone, speak to family. If you can't speak to family, speak to friends. If you can't speak to friends, speak to one of these people in the description down below. Speak to someone, and let's all try and be a little happier in 2018. I feel like I've started 2018 so deep. I've just been touched by so many things that have been going on lately. I don't know if it's because I'm about to be a dad and I'm starting to think about the world in a different way. I don't know what's going on with me. I feel like I'm the one having the mood swings. I'm the one that's up and down. Oh my God. She's just being sick. I'm the one that's going up and down and happy and like, oh, depressed and sad and oh, it's crazy. I'm not depressed. I'm gonna edit there. Woo. Well, all right, guys. See you tomorrow for hopefully. I said this yesterday, but anyway, I'm gonna try and get out more. See you tomorrow. All right, bye-bye.